Namaskar and good evening to one and all present here. I, Dr. Manisha Vyas, Assistant Professor in the Department of Food Science and Nutrition, Shet PT Mahila College of Arts and Home Science, Vanita Vishram, Surat, welcome you on the fifth day of this webinar series organized by the department in collaboration with IQAC. Today, it's 5th June and we are celebrating World Environment Day. I pray and wish that we all have the wisdom, sabko sanmati de Bhagwan, to save the existing creation of God, the wonderful plants, trees, animals, and do not enter into the sinful crimes like what happened in Kerala. Health, comprising of physical, mental, social, financial, emotional, spiritual well-being, is largely affected by one factor that can precipitate in many disease-based conditions, and that factor is stress. COVID-19 has created anxiety and stress amongst people of all generations. Like children are unsure about their studies, they're getting used to a new way of learning, and parents are also anxious whether this learning would continue for a long time and how we are going to deal with it. But children, they are still not able to meet their friends. So that is causing that anxiety. Elders or the senior citizens are worried about getting infected by the virus. Adults are affected the worst with social and financial crisis. Today, we have one person who was working as a plumber in Surat, could not cope with the stress of these times and has jumped into the river and committed suicide. Thus, it's our effort to see to it that participants are aware of the symptoms and can help in the control of such situations if there is anyone around us who is under stress and we can help them out. To introduce the resource person, Mrs. Chitra Shah, to talk on this topic, I invite Ms. Richa Chakkar, Assistant Professor of our department, to welcome and introduce Chitra. Richa Chakkar.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I am honored to introduce today's keynote speaker, Mrs. Chitra Shah, the founder and the director of Satya Special School. Satya Special School was founded in 2003 and caters to over 950 children with special need in the 9 branches across Pondicherry. She is the gold medalist and holds a master degree in social work from Madras School with a specialization in family and child welfare. She is a passionate about changing the lives of the differently able people and aims to ensure that every child with special needs gets proper education, health services, acceptance, and inclusion in society. With over 20 years of experience, her vision to create awareness can be seen in action at Satya Special School. She is the area director for Special Olympic Bharat Pondicherry and is also a part of various government, national and union territory committees. She has been honored with various national and state awards for her services towards humanity. I am extremely thankful to her for taking the time to be with us today and share her thoughts on stress management during unprecedented situation like COVID-19. I would request Chitra ma'am to enlighten us with her knowledge and expertise. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Richa, for that introduction. And I think I would like to definitely thank the SPTMC Surat management and Dr. Manisha for giving me this opportunity. And hopefully we would try and create more awareness on this very, very important aspect of the repercussions of COVID, and something that I think would have long-term impact on all our lives. It's not something that's going to finish today once the lockdown ends. Life is not going to go back to normal. In fact, this is supposed to be the new normal. There is definitely a package of stress that is going to be shown in all our lives in some form or the other. So I think a very, very important topic on which this conversation today and this presentation today is based on. But before I even talk about stress, I just want all of you as listeners to this conversation understand a primary thought, which is this is normal. Stress is a normal reaction for an abnormal situation. So COVID-19 is an abnormal situation, and whatever stress that we are facing is actually normal. So there is nothing to be alarmed about. Yes, we need to be aware of it, and we need to take precautions on how to avoid being stressed, or what is it that you can do to your loved ones to make sure that their lockdown, post-lockdown life is normal. So I would go to my presentation. I hope you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. In which case, I think I'm going to go back and share. One second.
You're seeing your desktop.
Yes. Can you see the presentation now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get out of my video because I think the bandwidth issues will happen otherwise. I don't know how to do it. Okay, anyway, So how do I manage stress during this lockdown period? What is it that happens to me or my loved ones, and why is it important for me to not worry about it or to not worry about it? So any pandemic actually brings in a lot of psychosocial disturbance to the large population that it's targeted towards. And in our case, world studies say 1/3 to half the population is in some form or the other affected, because have shown or are showing psychosocial disturbances because of the pandemic. This per se is not what the population is capable of handling. Generally what happens is you have a stressful situation, maybe at your home, or if it's something connected to riots or something like that, then there is a stressful situation just for that particular geographical location where the issue is happening. But COVID per se is actually worldwide. So everybody, the entire world population is going through this. And this crisis is not something that anybody actually planned for or looked forward to or were prepared for. So disaster preparedness levels were absolutely zero, because of which the capacity to handle something like this is also not there. Then this lack of capacity is what manifests itself as a stress or as anxiety, and in some cases seriously affects the person's mental health. And who is this vulnerable population where the mental health issues can get affected? We have an entire list, like ma'am said. Children can get affected. People already with comorbid conditions, medical conditions, get affected. General population, even somebody going to a bank who was a healthy worker, he might have had an issue. A businessman could have seen a large breakdown in his income levels, because of which he could be stressed out. So the reasons for stress could be anything, but there is stress. There is stress in each one of us. Even as you're listening to this conversation, your mind is probably looking at what are the numbers today, what is happening in my city, what has happened to my loved ones. So this is why stress becomes such a big issue. So how does this stress get manifest? The first thing would be to fear and worry about our immediate loved ones. Say somebody in my family, my wife, my husband, my children. So this becomes a major factor. Are they safe? Are they healthy? Are they going to manage and go through this crisis? Is something going to happen to them? So this is one end of a worry. The second end could be changes in sleep patterns and eating habits because of this stressful situation. The third important factor, I think, as professionals, what I have seen even among doctors, is a complete lack of concentration and they are unable to put their minds into what has to be done or what should be done. I've met doctors who've said, I was in my clinic every day at 8 in the morning, but now I can't get myself off from bed because I'm scared that the next patient who is walking in would not be COVID positive. So irrespective of your education levels, the profession that you're following, or your socio-economic conditions, stress has just crept into all our lives. In terms of already existing medical conditions, the conditions could worsen because of stressful situations. In some cases, I think new conditions might sprung up. And in the last, this one is an increased use of maybe alcohol or tobacco addiction or maybe cigarette addiction. Luckily, I think in most places where it's not available, these things did not happen. And all this gets manifested by worry, unnecessary worries, by confusion, by being frustrated, anger, anxiousness. Anything that you touch, oh, does this have COVID? Or anything that comes from outside. How many times do I clean vegetables is what some of my clients call and ask me. So I'm like, you should just clean it once or twice. No, but can somebody get stuck in it? Can something, be part of it? So these are all worries that kind of will have a serious repercussions as you go through. And every population, like the population, they all react differently. Children would react differently, parents would react differently, your extended family, grandparents, even your aunts, uncles, it is not like one blanket solution. Every age group has its own set of issues. Every maybe ethnic group has its own set of issues. Your lifestyles, the life that you followed has its own set of issues. And maybe the community and the neighborhood would also react very differently to this stressful situation. So how is it, in the next couple of minutes, I would run through what you can do for relieving the stress for each of these kind of categories. The first thing that I would like all of you to do is to ask these three important questions. The first question is, how is your sleep? Is it normal or is it disturbed? Every day in the morning as you wake up, these are a set of questions that you have to ask yourself. Is my sleep normal? Is my sleep disturbed? Do I have an appetite? Is it normal? Or am I overeating or am I not eating? The third thing would be, how is my interest in daily work? मुझे पता है इतना काम करना है मगर काम नहीं कर पा रही हूँ. This is what some of them tell us. Then what do I do? If any of these questions says disturbed, then you move on to the next phase of my set of questions. If all of this is normal, you can be rest assured there is no stress. You are fine. You can live happily. You can probably pass that happiness to any of the others. But if that doesn't happen, and if you are, disturbed in any of these three questions, then you move on to my next set of questions, which is, have you been experiencing a sudden attack of fear or anxiety? You would be doing something very normally. Let me give you a case study. One of the calls that I've had on my helpline is from a bank officer who has been going to work every day, even during the pandemic. The bank has given him all the necessary, equipment. He's got his sanitizers in place. He wears a mask. He, in fact, wears a face shield. But still, at the end of the day, he is worried if something would happen to him. So when you wake up, if you keep having any anxiety or stressful issues, then you need to be aware that something is going wrong with you, or you're under some amount of stress. Also, you need to observe if this stress is occurring spontaneously, or if it is something that is triggered because you're watching something or you're hearing something. You need to know what the trigger factors are around you. The most important is, are these a fear of infection, or are you kind of worried because it is general COVID pandemic, everybody is talking about it? मैं बाहर जा पाऊंगी कि नहीं, मुझे बाहर जाकर कुछ खरीदना है कि मुझे कोविड हो जाएगा कि नहीं? These are questions that people keep asking themselves. So as you wake up, if any of these set of questions, are you feeling sad and depressed? Do you have mood swings? Suddenly मुझे रोना आ रहा है मैडम, मुझे पता नहीं क्यों रो रही हूँ. This is something that some of them are telling us. Then there is also like anybody you see, you are suspicious. Has this man washed his hands? Especially if there are people coming, the courier guy is coming to give you some courier. You're worried if that box has been sanitized or if the guy has been sanitized, if the sabzi wala has cleaned his hands before touching your. These are very, very important questions that keep going through your mind. So you understand, am I facing any of these issues? Is it normal, or am I unusually being suspicious about everybody whom I'm coming in contact with? And most important, ma'am was talking about that suicide, that case where the person committed suicide. So it is very, very important to ask yourself, because of all this, am I, or is the person who is going through stress even manifesting some kind of harmful behavior? The harmful behavior could be an urge to go and take extra sleeping pill. The harmful behavior could be just going and, wanting to stand in the top floor of your apartment and wanting to peep in and look down because you're not sure when you want to fall off. These kind of suicidal tendencies is what you have to be really aware of. If any of these questions you think it's a yes, or even if it's a maybe, then there is an alarm that needs to ring, because either you or the person for whom you're doing this assessment is going through some kind of stress, and that stress has to be handled. What are the common signs and symptoms of how this stress will get manifested? One is a constant worry. Change in sleeping habits is something that we have seen across people. Like if I get 20 calls in a day on my helpline, 17 are people who are saying that I'm unable to sleep. 3 o'clock in the night, I'm looking at the COVID situation in the country. Or you have dizziness, nausea. Sometimes you have constipation, and there is some kind of a body ache. The person will not be able to tell you where exactly is this body pain. When people are going through already medical situations, especially if you have an older person at home, and if that person is complaining of a body ache, that doesn't mean the person is stressed out. It only means that this pain or body ache is because of their medical condition and not because of the stress. So you must be in a position to differentiate body ache that happens or occurs because of stress. I'll tell you a very, very simple way of doing it. When you ask a person, like when you touch yourself and say and feel that, okay, this particular portion in my hand is painful, you touch it 10 times. Out of routine, if you touch the 11th time, you will not feel the pain, which means the pain is psychological and it is not actually on your body. That is how you could differentiate stress-induced pain and pain that is happening because of a medical condition. In all this, the worst severe case is when you feel depressed, you don't want to talk to people, you want to isolate yourself, or when you start consuming more amount of alcohol or start smoking more, or you are irritated, you're shouting, you're getting into fights with your family. That is when needs to ring an alarm bell that these are symptoms of stress and I need to do something about it. What is the possible ways in which this stress can manifest? In addition to all the signs and symptoms I have shared with you, one very, very important possible way would be recurring of behaviors that you have grown out of. Some of them would have had a habit of constantly wanting to chew gum. And for some reason, that habit they must have got over that habit. But now, because of this stressful situation, that urge to be chewing gum has come back. Sometimes it is you love to cook, but during this period, you don't want to cook. You think you can't get your heart into cooking. So that also can be a manifestation of stress. The other way of looking at this is avoiding an activity, like somebody who is a singer or who loves singing would would stop singing completely, would not want to even try uttering one line. So things that you like doing, which you don't want to or you're avoiding now, if you have any of these, then you know that you are under some kind of stress, which is manifested, not manifested, but yes, in your mind, you are going through some amount of stress. So what are like the simplest strategies? Supposing you have a child, the child is about 10 years old, and you are, as a mom or as a parent, you want to know, is my child going through stress or not? What is the first thing the child will do? It will start crying without any reason. They would throw a tantrum. They would have craving for eating a few particular item, and most importantly, either they would be lifeless and not move around, or they would become hyperactive. In which case, what is it that I should do as a parent? The first important thing is to understand why the child is stressed out. What you need to do is to ask the child, maybe he is getting too much of information about COVID. Maybe you are discussing about, पता है क्या हुआ, बगल में एक गली है, वो गली में 4 आदमी को COVID आ गया. So this kid is always listening to all the conversations that you are having with your child, and that indirectly gives him a lot of fear on what will happen if I get the infection. Or you're constantly watching it on television, you think he is just around playing, but his ears are towards what you are watching on television. That is why it becomes very important to avoid too much of information given to your child. Ensure that you streamline, you decide how much information about COVID needs to go to your child, but sit and explain, answer him honestly. There are some cases where the mother has said, no, COVID is just another virus. But finally, when we explained, the kid understood that it is something slightly more complicated than what the mother has explained. And the child said, then my mom is lying. So do not do things like this. When you're talking to the children, you need to be honest. You need to tell them that this is what it is. Yes, it has serious implications, but you don't have to worry, because we are washing our hands and wearing a mask and keeping ourselves clean and staying away from it and staying at home. So once you explain the logic behind why certain things are happening, children automatically understand and they get out of this. The other important thing that you need to do is, though the children are at home, you need to set the kids a routine. Like you get up in the morning, you wash up, you have a bath, just like how they would be going to school. You need to ensure that they follow a schedule. Simply because they are at home, that doesn't mean that they can go have a bath at 12 in the afternoon, or not have a bath at all. This does not work. You need to schedule them, and that scheduling will have to come only from the parents. If you are sitting at home and you think, okay, you are lazy, you don't want to schedule yourself, then the kids, you can't force it on the kids. Unless you practice it, you cannot put it into practice. These are very simple tips, but you need to kind of follow it. The most important thing that has to happen is to have quality family time. When you're sitting to eat, now that everybody is going through a lockdown and you are sitting at home, it is important to sit together and talk. Maybe talk about how the family was when the father was young, or when the mother was young, because this is a time which you will never get back in your life. I think most children have called and said, I have seen my dad more than what I would have seen him for 10 years. But my father is always busy watching television. He is not talking to us. I want my dad to play with me. So family time then becomes very, very important. And in some cases, you have to become the role model. I, as a child, if I am a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, I look at my mother for her moods. If I think my mom is stressed out about something, she's anxious about something, you pass on your anxiety to the children, and you need to avoid it. Your anxiety meter has to always be calm. Even if you think, somebody so close to you is under quarantine, you need to be careful on sharing that information. Ask yourself, is it important for my son or my daughter? to know about this. If it is not important, then let me not push it on. Let me not share it with them. It is okay. You can wait till the kids go to bed and then share it with your husband, if at all, if ever you want to share it with your partner. And if any of these don't work, and you also need to give children your space. There are so many online classes happening. I think the kids are more busy than they were even when they are going to school. That's how I think it is. I don't know how much of it is actually okay. In fact, as sociologists and psychologists, we are studying the impact of online classes on children and on their learning capacities, which means it becomes very important for us to give him maybe 1 hour of time where he can do what he wants. He wants to listen to music, he wants to watch television, he even doesn't want to do anything but wants to pick up a book and sit at a place. It is okay, but you need to give him that me time where they have their own space to gather back their thoughts. We think they are at home. There's so much that they have picked up from the television, from their online classes. In fact, I know kids who are doing robotics at the age of 6, and I'm wondering, how can you do online robotics at the age of 6? So parents also need to really think on how much you are going to stress your child. Their education requirements don't think it's necessary. LKG students sitting in front of online session actually doesn't make sense. So as parents, we need to filter out what you want to expose your children into and what you don't want to do it. And if any of these you think fail and your child is still being stressed, or you think he's still having any of those sleeplessness, lack of appetite, or overeating, then you need to seek professional help. One thing that I've seen in India is we hardly talk. We all think humko sab kuch pata hai and we can handle our own situations. But it's always nice to share what you're going through. It could be a mother's group where you're sharing about your children, or where you want to understand what each child is doing. My son is doing this, my son is not doing this. Even by doing things like this, you could actually pick up tips from each other on how to handle or how you're not to handle. What is it that you want them to do? This is how you handle children, stress in children. What happens for adults? It's slightly for youth, specifically children in the adolescent age. One is that they are already going through a lot of hormonal imbalance. They are going through changes are very subtle. You cannot see, they don't understand. And then it becomes very important to first observe what is it that this child is going through. Is it because of his bodily changes, or is it because of the fact that he's unable to go and meet his friends? And at that age, they want to experiment. So if you say, this is not okay, don't do it, he might want to take that risk and do it. Maybe because he wants to show that he's become a matured boy, or he wants to, if it is a girl, she wants to say, okay, I am not like any of those traditional girls. I'm going to break this regime and I'm going to go out. So for a population like this, what is first important is to give them some kind of emotional support. Never pass a judgment to this adult population. Never tell them what you're thinking is wrong, or you don't know what you're saying. See, they sometimes browse the net more than you and I. They have far more information more than you and I, and they are more aware of a lot of things. So when they are putting across a point, you need to allow them to give that space for them to share what they have seen. Yeah, this is the age group where they can get into substance abuse. So that becomes very important to avoid them being lonely. If he wants to chat with his friends, you probably need to give them that space where he can chat with his friends. You need to definitely limit the use of gadgets, because we have seen a lot of online abuse cases coming up simply because they are watching, things are popping up. You get addicted, and then getting them out of it becomes difficult. So this is what happens as far as youth is concerned, adolescence is concerned. And even here, if they get into abuse, or if they get into some kind of addiction, it is important to get and seek a professional support, simply because some of these issues It is okay for me as a counselor to be telling the child a few things rather than a mother actually saying it. They may not take it from the mother, but they can take it maybe from a neighbor. And it is also important at this age to give them somebody whom they can look forward to talking, some kind of a platform where they can look up to this person as a mentor, where they can build this rapport with somebody else to whom they could confide without being passed a judgment. I think that is what is very, very important. What happens in most families is we just say, "Tumko kuch pata nahi hai, ye abhi tum seekh rahe ho, so you don't know what you're doing." Or we say, "Oh, mera ladka ko sab kuch pata hai, there is nothing that he does not understand, so he can handle everything." I think both these cases are not okay to be in, because these lead to impacts in their mental health condition as we go later in life. The third very, very important section of population whom I think every house has an old parent, grandparent, sometimes it's your in-laws. What they need is a reassurance that nothing is going to happen to them. That is all. They also are gathering information from us. We are talking about COVID. In fact, I had one 60-year-old grandmom who's calling me and asking me, I have cough, I have cold, I think my body is hot. Do I have COVID? Because my daughter-in-law says if you have all these symptoms, then you have COVID. But this is how she has been always, because of her age and her medical condition. So what is important then is to be giving them a reassurance that yes, this is happening. Even there, you should not hide facts from them. You should tell them that yes, COVID is something that has happened. This is what it means. But see, we are doing these things. We are washing our hands. There is a sanitizer at home. There is a mask. We are wearing all this. Because of this, it is not going to come. You need to give them that reassurance. And music is something that can reduce stress among the old people, whatever be the kind of music that they need. But if this condition, kind of literally continues, like I had this call from a lady who called and said, my mother-in-law in a day, 100 times she asks me, do I have COVID? Do I have COVID? How do I handle it? That is creating a lot of stress on me. I get angry and then I go and hit my child. My child then starts crying and he's run away. This is an incident that actually happened. So the best thing for them could have been as a family to sit and explain to that old person, see, this is what the situation is. If necessary, even maybe call a neighbor, call a relative whom she likes to talk to, and get that relative to explain. Sometimes it could be even a doctor, what we have seen in most cases. The old people have one favorite doctor, and if the doctor says, they would do everything, and the doctor says they will understand everything. So it's better to call that doctor and say, can you please explain it to her? So these are very simple tips that you have to do to safeguard yourself and the person, and for the complete, sanity of the whole house. There is one more very, very important population, which is, I guess, all those who are listening to this conversation, what we call the worried well. These are normal, healthy people who don't have, it might really have been a small cold, but she must have, she would bring the roof down and say, no, I have COVID, you take me to the hospital, I want to get tested, I want somebody to test me. And by taking this person there, you're actually exposing the person to a more severe condition. In this case, the only thing that you can actually do is to sit them down and reassure them and first understand what they're trying to tell you, and then to explain to them the condition. If you think it is not going to be possible, the worried well are the ones who are creating a huge strain on our entire medical facility. Because imagine if 10 people who are okay with very limited, maybe a cough, maybe a cold, maybe some backache somewhere, but somebody must have told her, oh, if it aches here, then that's COVID. So she or he is panicking, and they land up at the hospital, and you are actually wasting the doctor's time because you're convinced you have COVID. The doctor is trying to tell you, no, I don't even want to test you. You don't need to be tested. But they don't agree, they don't understand. So this worried well is the most severe category, which causes a lot of stress on the resources, on the medical professions, and on all of us. Simply because you know they are okay, but they think they are not okay. They are, they may not even have, these are self-doctors who think, I know I am going through this. I know I have this, you remember that newspaper wala who came? I think he did not wash his hand. I touched the newspaper, because of which I must have got it. Since that man came, see, I've been sneezing. She would have probably sneezed once. That population is very difficult to even convince, to understand, or to even talk to them. So the best thing then to do is again to look for somebody who can talk to them, or sometimes even distract them from getting into some conversation like this. Or the third thing that you can do with this worried well population is to use them to counsel others and say, you know everything. So please see, this person thinks that they have COVID. Can you please explain it to them? They are not potentially at risk for COVID at all, but they believe that they already have got it. And they say that 70% of our population think this. There's 10% of the population that are walking around without masks. If you ask them, they say COVID is not for me. It'll come to anybody else. See, I'm drinking this kadu kadayato every day. I'm doing this. I'm eating all these immunity foods. Nothing is going to happen. I've never fallen sick. So this is one sect of the population. There's another sect of the population which keeps thinking that I'm going to get it in spite of whatever is happening around, simply because I'm always attracting to something like this. So this worried well is one set. It can be any of us. It can be any of us. It can be any of us who are going through, who have come out of an illness. I had fever that day. From that day, I think it has been. And these are, we think it is just a passing statement, but you need to be aware how often the statement is told. If more than 5 or 10 times, if you look at this lady, and every time she sees you, she says, "Pata hai mujhe wo bimari aaya tha, uske baad mujhe yahan dukh raha hai ki yahan ho raha hai. I think I have COVID. मुझे मेरा लड़का हॉस्पिटल नहीं ले जा रहा है." Even if you went to the hospital, डॉक्टर ने बोला तुमको कुछ नहीं, मुझे देखा भी नहीं, मुझे भेज दिया. So this is what the worried well is, and the worried well are the most difficult population to handle. They will not only do doctor shopping, they will also do psychiatrist shopping. So they would go from one counselor to another till a counselor says, "Yes, मुझे लग रहा है आपको बीमारी है, आप यहाँ जाना और ये टेस्ट लेकर आना." This is what they expect you to do. But handling them, yes, is stressful for us sometimes. But then it's important to kind of balance it out. The other kind of stress that is happening now is cases where they have already been tested positive and you kind of stigmatize them. Somebody who has gone to the hospital and come back. I had to go out of town and come back. Then they don't allow you in this apartment. So this social stigma is something that causes stress, and that is something that we need to understand. Any of us could be in that situation. Maybe a cousin of ours would have been unwell in another city. You might have to travel there. That doesn't mean you would get COVID. You'll have to come back, quarantine yourself, follow all the rules and restrictions. And if you're okay, the others need to accept you, welcome you actually. So this is one kind of stress factor that needs to be broken down. The other important thing, because of stress, the manifestation we have seen is a lot of domestic violence. Even very happy couples, because they have never spent so much time with each other. 20 out of 24 hours, everybody was busy for like 10, 15 hours, and you only had a few hours before going to bed or getting ready and going to work in the morning. You had to spend with your partner. Things were normal. Now you are in a lockdown, you are with the partner, you are spending more and more time. Even for the slightest thing, your partner says something, your mood goes up, you start screaming, you think you're being victimized. Sometimes you are like, मैं पूरे दिन काम कर रही हूँ, मेरे साथ कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, सब काम मैं ही कर रही हूँ. There are a lot of women who call and say, "Gar bhi karna hai. I also have to work from home." People don't understand. Nobody. So that kind of emotional stress is happening to even couples who have otherwise been very healthy and very happy during post pre-lockdown. So what you do is then you give each partner some amount of time where they have time together and time apart from each other. Even if you're living in a single bedroom or a double bedroom apartment, it's important to go and lock yourself in one of the bedrooms and say, okay, for the next half an hour, please don't disturb me. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be on your own. Listen to some music, do whatever you want. That's one. The second thing is, most couples, what they do is to start digging something that happened 10 saal ke pehle ka purana kahani, because now you know the man of the house is forced to sit with you and listen to it. So please don't do anything like this. Just don't get into, मैंने बोला था आपको प्याज लेकर आने के लिए, आप जाकर आलू लेकर आया. You can't fight over something like this. You probably have to find a way where you write it down and give it to the man. Or maybe he doesn't even know how to go and buy vegetables. You should have trained him. Take this opportunity to train them. Take this opportunity to bring in more gender diversity in your family. Your sons have never helped you in the kitchen. Maybe you should drag them and tell them, "Kam vadi nahi aa raha hai, so all of you come and help me in the kitchen." This is how you can prevent or you can reduce the kind of stress that is around the families. But domestic violence can also be because of alcoholic habits of the partners, and maybe substance abuse, even general psychological conditions which manifested during this lockdown period. If that is the case, then you need to seek professional help, because when it gets to violence or physical abuse or even emotional abuse, it is something that cannot be handled without the support of an outsider. An outsider could also be a person who is comfortable talking to your partner, or somebody in the neighborhood whom your partner looks up to. You need to be aware of all these situations, and that is how you start doing it. But most important, it's nice to start a hobby together. You know, if it's a couple who sings, maybe you should start sitting and singing. You can't do this always, but find some time where you can do that. Or you can also do painting, paper. But the best stressful activity for any couple is to start tearing pieces of paper. Just take today's newspaper. You feel like you want to pick up a fight with your husband, start tearing that newspaper into smaller bits. Start with big bits and then go on to smaller bits. By the time you finish the whole newspaper, your anger has moved away and you are better and at least smiling at your partner. This is one of the most effective and the most easiest way to ensure that there is no kind of abusive words, languages that are thrown at each other, and you have your own emotional space. The COVID has actually brought out, a huge, I think, issue on eating habits of Indians and how these eating habits have changed with Swiggy and Uber Eats and everything this one. All housewives had to get back to cooking. Some of them call me and say, I'm like doing 7 meals a day. सुबह भी करना है, नाश्ता भी करना है, सब कुछ हमें ही करना पड़ेगा. Then what do you do to take yourself from out of this craving? Craving can also be food, craving can also be alcohol. So how do you ensure that a person does not crave or stress is not created due to craving? The first thing you should do is to delay your response to it. If somebody is saying, "Mujhe abhi bhaji chahiye or garam garam samosa chahiye," you need to probably tell them, "I will not give you now. Maybe let's look at it 1 hour from here, or 3 hours from now, or 10 hours from now, or maybe in the evening." The second thing is to distract them from that craving to something that they like doing. Most importantly is to first ask the person to take a deep breath and maybe sit quietly for a while. And if they still think that they have the craving for this food, then give them, or substitute your alcohol with a glass of water, nice cold water, and see if that works. This is not an immediate kind of solution, but these are ways where you can delay or distract. These 4 Ds are something that I think all housewives need to handle, both with your children or with your partners or even with themselves. You go into the kitchen, you think there is something you want to eat, you feel like eating, but instead of eating that, go pick up a glass of water and drink that. That is one best way of not adding on weight and later worrying about how to lose weight, right? And what do I do with aggressive behavior? I get calls where they are saying, I don't know why my dad is shouting. I don't even understand why he is shouting. He is just shouting at us in the morning. The first thing then to do is stay away from the person who is angry. You need to move out. What do we call safest approach is S stands for spacing, staying away from that person. A stands for appearance. When that person is shouting or when the person is angry, keep calm. Don't show any reaction on your face. Then the person himself after 2 minutes would shout and then move on. The third thing is to focus on the surroundings to ensure that the person doesn't get violent, because generally what happens, anger, aggressive words leads to a physical abuse. So just ensure that your environment around does not have any weapons. It could even be a book that the person takes and throws. It could be anything that could harm you, and then you need to be careful on that. Fourth is to exchange a conversation where you can probably divert the person into, not talking about the anger or what is happening, but talking about something totally irrelevant to the situation. Sometimes that can aggravate the anger, but at one point it will kind of stabilize the whole situation. And the last thing is seek for professional help if you can't handle it. So anger, this is how you handle anger, but the best medicine for anger is to give the person a space. Maybe tell the person, why don't you please go into the bathroom, look at the mirror and start shouting. None of us want to listen to you screaming at our ears. Sometimes a person does not even realize that he's angry. He does not even realize why he is angry. If that is the situation, then the best thing you need to do is to probably tell him, go look at yourself in the mirror, and we look horrible when we are shouting. So most often when you look at your own facial expressions, you decide that shouting is not for me, and then stop and get out of that aggressive behavior. And how do I handle anxiety? See, the biggest area where anxiety actually manifests itself is when you're sleeping. You want to get to bed, your body is tired, but as you lie down, you keep getting all these thoughts about what is happening there, what is happening this side. In fact, initial calls where when I closed my eyes, I could only see the coronavirus image coming out. Then we started telling people that the only tool for it is to lie down and start counting 1 to 10. By the time you go to 10, if you think your anxiety is not okay, come back from 10 to 1. You keep doing it, and at one point your body just loses all the anxietiness and goes back to sleep. But most important, there are 3 basic questions that you need to ask yourself if you think you are anxious. The first thing is, what is under my control? Whatever is going through, is this COVID under my control? If it is not under my control, what can I do about it? So let me not be anxious. The second thing is, unnecessarily worrying about it only worsens your condition. Yes or no? If it is yes, then what you do is, how do I handle my stress? I start singing, I start doing something else. If all this is not, then what is it, that one thing that I can do to keep myself positive? And then pick up that thing and do. So these 3 questions, if you ever think you're anxious, see, anxiety can be handled only 3 ways. Something that is not within your control, something that is within your control and you cannot do anything about it, and something that is within your control and what you can do about it. So only things that are within our control. I can be clean, I can wash my hands, I can wear a mask, I can make sure that nothing happens to me, I can ensure that my family is not getting affected. Beyond that, what is happening outside is not within my control. There is no point being anxious about it or creating anxiety about it. So this is the only way that anxiety can be handled. And the other thing is, what if? What if this happens to me? What if we don't get back to our jobs? What if they, reduce the manpower in my organization? What if the salary doesn't come? How much of it is what if is actually tomorrow and not today? So the best thing to do is to stay focused in today. Let us go through today. If I can get through today, I can get through tomorrow, is what you should tell yourself. So what if means stay focused on the present. What will happen in July? I can't worry about it today, because in May, you did not know what was going to happen in June. We all thought, okay, the numbers were going to reduce, everything is going to go back to normal. It looks like it is not going to, it is going to extend for some more time. Let's take it as it comes. Let's live each day, this one by a day. The second most important thing is, look around, and whatever you read, you see how lucky you are to be where you are. You have a roof, you have 3 meals, you have more than sufficient funds to go through, but there are people who don't even have 1 meal. Then you start being grateful for what you have today. And if you do that, your what ifs just disappear. And the other thing is, it is not necessary to be very certain about everything in life. Some kind of uncertainty is what is existing, is what is going to be the new normal, and we should get ready for that uncertainty. Life has always been uncertain. It is just that we thought, okay, kaam to hoga, like you would have a job, you will get a salary at the end of the month, you have your children will go to school, your parents are alive. But this certainty is not going to be the same always. Some tragic situation can happen and you can get out of it. But how do I get out of it? If it is within my limits, I can get out of it. If it is not within my limits, I need to wait and see for the time to become certain, for me to get over this uncertainty. This is what we basically, handling stress is just nothing but common sense. You just tell yourself that this is possible, this is not possible. If it is not possible, then it is really okay. One thing is, none of us are, all of us are going through this uncertainty. It is not like everybody else is okay and I am the only one who is not certain about it. All of us are going through this uncertainty. It is just that we need to live with this uncertainty. So what if is something that should not be in your dictionary till maybe December. And maybe after December, what if can come into the picture. What if travel doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? Can come post December. Till then, let us not even look at this dictionary in our words and forget about this question called what if. So how do I handle stress? This is something very, very simple. You need to have a schedule. You need to get up on time, finish all your daily chores, do what you were doing as if you are, in fact, we are suggesting to children, school children also, that if you're used to wearing your school uniform, please wear your school uniform and then sit in your class. With only then they get into this mode of study, then wear your school uniform and sit. Nobody is asking you to not to. All this thing about, online classes and people not being dressed for it is because you were casual about it. You as a father would sit in your shorts or in your pajamas when you are online, and your child comes and says, but you're supposed to be working. Why are you dressed like that? So you need to follow a schedule, follow a routine, follow an etiquette. And this is the best time for us to actually teach our children the values that you will not get this time back from them. They will be so busy with other things. So if ever you want to pass on all your family ethics and values, this is the time. But have a schedule for it. He knows that during dinner, dad will be sitting and he'll tell us stories of his childhood. Very interesting for children to, listen to all that. To grandparents to tell their stories of how they came from another city, how they learned a new language. It can get very interesting. You need to stay connected. When I say don't worry about COVID, I'm saying, yes, understand what is happening, but you don't need to do an analysis. You don't need to be the person you're not BBC, you don't need to inform others. You just understand that amount of information that is needed for you to survive. Okay, my next door neighbor is not infected, fine, I'm okay then. My street is not infected, I'm okay. The neighborhood is not infected, I'm okay. My place of work is safe, I'm fine. This is what you need to do. You need to exercise. You need to do some kind of physical activity. You know, initially when I said exercise, most people told me that हम दो bedroom का घर में रहते हैं, space नहीं है. I said there are a lot of things that you can do lying down on your bed, lifting your legs, doing whatever asanas. Don't call it that, but do whatever is possible. Shake a leg, dance, sing, do something, but move. You know, you can't just be a couch potato just watching serials, watching Mahabharat. Maybe you should make a bow and arrow and fight with your child and play with them. That's the best exercise that you can do. And take this time to stay connected. You have an aunt, you've never called her. She lives next door, but still you haven't called her. Maybe this is the time to connect with them and talk to them, and you know, share good thoughts. It is up to us what we are saying to get. If your reactions are negative, you're only going to get negative reactions. But if you're going to be positive, you say a joke, you share something, somebody else is going to be saying the same thing. If they don't share it with you, they'll probably share it with a third person. At least that person will have a smile on their face and their stress will reduce a little. This is what we have to do. There are 7 steps towards protecting oneself. One is to definitely eating healthy, avoiding smoking and drinking, to exercise, your sleep habits. You know, just because you don't have to go to work tomorrow, it doesn't mean you can get to bed at 1 o'clock and then wake up at 10 o'clock. That doesn't happen. That itself is unhealthy. So you need to go to bed, ensure that you get that many hours of sleep that you badly need. Mindfulness becomes very important. 5 minutes, sit, put a bhajan, whole family can sit quietly and listen to it. For women especially, me time becomes very important. You know, everybody is at home 24 hours, you're working like a clock, but take that half an hour where you just go up to the terrace, walk around your pot, your tulsi plant, whatever, sit and talk and be yourself. That is very, very, very important. And the last is, don't be too hard on yourself. You know, I've seen mothers who said, oh, सब लोग घर में हैं, आज ये करना है, कल ये करना है, परसों ये करना है, रगड़ा पेटीज करना है. Everything that you have otherwise bought from outside, you want to cook at home. Don't do that. And do your best. That's it. Don't have to feel guilty. Oh, मेरा लड़का को ये चाहिए था, वो नहीं था घर में, इसीलिए मुझे बहुत बुरा लगा. And then she is stressing out, कहाँ से market में कैसा जाऊँ, कहाँ से लेकर आऊँ. It doesn't work. It is not okay. It's okay to tell your child, see, in this COVID period, you also have to teach them to listen to a no from you. So most women are stressed out because they think they have not done enough. Even at the end of the day, 10 ghante I am in the kitchen, but I still think I've not fed my family. I'm like, that is not okay. So that being hard on yourself, even fathers I've seen, you know, just because I'm at home, I want to do so much, but I'm not able to do because I can't push myself. I'm worried about tomorrow. So it's good to just relax for some time, good to just sit, not do anything, maybe pick up a book, maybe do whatever, not to be too harsh on yourself. And most important, the lockdown is not the same for everyone. Your family could react differently, another family could have reacted very differently. But what you can do is give the best. Make sure that the family stays together and the family stays healthy. Because if the family is healthy, then you don't have stress. And if you don't have stress, your post-COVID life, pre-COVID life becomes absolutely livable. And that's what we need to do. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope I've done justice to whatever you were expecting me to do. Thank you, Manisha.
Wow, Chitra, this was an excellent presentation for this stressful topic on stress management. And you have given us practical tips to feel that this too shall pass. And from one of the participants, I'm reading all the comments from in the chat box on both YouTube and on this Zoom. And I'd like to read out one comment that says, wonderful, Dr. Chitra. It seems you have come across all these categories of patients because your explanation is extremely convincing. And I truly believe that and accept that you were too good and the participants have really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you.
Let's have a short question answer session, because
Sure.
I don't want to miss out that chance. And there's a question that when schools would start, like when children start going to school, what should be how to manage the stress with the parents at home and the children going to school or in the colleges too?
Okay, I think the most important learning out of COVID is that we have to really relook at the way our assessments are done. You know, what is going to happen is that once the children go back to school, maybe in August or July or August, there's going to be so much pressure on 2 महीने चला गया हम लोग क्वेश्चंस नहीं खत्म किया हम लोग वो करना है you have to get on to your quarterly exams you have to get on to semesters that is not going to work see like all of us the children need time to get back to a routine and that has to actually happen in a very phased manner after all these are kids you need to give them you know what we call a buffer time before they actually maybe initially if I were a school student or a college student I would just get the children to come without their books to just enjoy and play around because 3 months the kids have only been sitting in front of a system and you have anyway kind of online classes covered your sessions right so what you should be doing is to get them out in the open, run around and play and just have fun. Give them colors, let them express themselves, and especially for college students, it's I think the best time to catch up with your peers. Most importantly, you need to get them to write about what COVID has done to them, expressively through art or through you know this 10 days of buffer that you will have before you actually start your actual classes is what is going to be the comfort zone for the children to settle back into routine. Indian schooling is not easy. Huh? We expect all our kids to be, I don't know what. Not all kids are going to be able to manage it. So we need to give them that time to settle back into it. Most important, teachers have to become listeners, not just people who are teaching. The kids are going to come with 100 questions, 100 observations. You need to give them that time and space to express. Parents would not have done it. Huh? Parents would tell, "Tu jaकर तेरा teacher को पूछ ले." This is what most parents would say. मुझे पता नहीं, तू teacher के साथ बात कर. So teachers have to all become counselors. Get into the act of listening to your children and give them that space. I think even till December, 1 hour a day, you need to just not do anything, no periods, no nothing. Just sit and talk to your children so that they get back that confidence. You know, we can express it, an adult can show anger, but these children, they are scared. Will my friend say something else? Will they make fun of me if I ask this question? There was somebody who asked me, now that I have not studied, I have not written down, will I remember what I did when I go back to school? Which means we have somewhere failed to teach the child concepts, right? It says, Abhi mujhe, if they tell me to go to a laboratory, I don't think I will be able to recognize the formulas again because I have forgotten. So somewhere a method of teaching, a method of learning, and I think it's time to bring back a joy in that learning rather than being, you know, mark oriented and performance oriented and stressful. We should maybe make it more fun, more outdoor for a while so that they all move and and get this fear, you know, they're going to come back. Some mothers would have been very particular about washing. Some mothers would have probably not been so particular about cleaning. So they'll say, तुम हाथ साफ नहीं कर रही हो, मैं हाथ साफ कर रही हूँ, तेरे वजह से मुझको ये आ गया. All these are going to happen. And that one thing, misinformation is something that we need to really work on. I think educationists have hopefully your session tomorrow will throw more light on it, but I think education will have to have a rethink as to how it's going to go on post-COVID. Yeah, Manisha. I don't see her. I don't think she's around, right? I can't see her. I know.
I guess, ma'am, she is disconnected
Yes.
or network connectivity. Meanwhile,
Yes.
I had one another question from a chat box.
Yes.
I'll just read it. They had asked, there are various positive as well as negative ways to reduce the stress. They wanted to know what are these negative ways.
What are the negative ways to reducing stress?
That people used to like follow wrongly. They think that they are doing right way, and actually it is the wrong way.
Okay, so there is nothing called wrong way. Okay, if you follow something and you think your stress is gone, that is the right way. What works for you, like whatever I have said, does not work for everybody else. For some people, talking to another person only increases more stress. If I say go talk to a third person, they will say no, that is what creates more stress to me. I am okay by referring or online and getting information. So what works for you is positive, what doesn't work for you is negative. Somebody else it could be positive, especially for children. You know, if there is a kid who likes to crack jokes, you can probably add a joke and talk a little about COVID. But a very serious child, if you say a joke and say corona based on a joke, that child will think you're making fun of him. So you need to actually understand the child and then give the solutions to it. Have I answered your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, I guess there is some network issue.
Ma'am has come back. I can see her.
Manisha, ma'am.
She, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Thank you. Some internet connectivity issues were there. And
Yeah.
thanks, Shilpi, for taking over. And I'd just like to ask one more last question, I think, before we close, that what amount of stress is right?
So, a stress that does not make you lose sleep, a stress that does not make you lose your appetite, and a stress that lets you live your daily life is okay. And you must have some amount of stress. Huh? If somebody says, no, I'm leading a stressful life in this situation, I think that person doesn't understand himself or herself. All of us, even listening to this conversation at the back of our mind, we do have no what happens if tomorrow this happens. So that what if goes away, you should work on yourself. And most importantly, it's good to be stressed about something. That is what will push you to get out of it and push you to do something. So it's normal to be stressful in an abnormal situation, which means your mind is healthy and you are in the right track.
Thank you. I think, Chitra, before we end, I call upon Dr. Shilpi Agrawal, the co-coordinator of this event, to invoke the vote of thanks. Chitra, from my side, I would like to thank you personally for doing
Thank you
this.
so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Shilpi.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Thank you is the best prayer that anyone could say. So it's my privilege to invoke a vote of thanks today. I, Dr. Shilpi Agrawal, on behalf of Food Science and Nutrition, State PT Mahila College of Arts and Home Science, extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Chitra Shaha for such precise learning about simplified and easy ways of managing stress, and that too in different age groups and relationships. It was a pleasure to hear you, ma'am. I'm extremely thankful to our entire Vanita Vishram management, our principal, Dr. Rajesh Patel, IQAC coordinator, Shri Virendra Joshi, my dear colleagues, and the technical support staff for their valuable support and guidance. I wanted to thank all the participants. Your participation and interest in learning is greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you all.
Thank
Thank you,
you. Thank
Shilpi.
you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Chitra. This was wonderful. And I would like to announce again that tomorrow we have the last session, and that session would be on future trends in education by Dr. Ramesh Kothari. And I'd like to tell all the participants that you've been finishing all the feedback forms, and we're getting that in on time. Tomorrow, we would be giving you two feedback forms. One would be the way we are giving every day based on the topic, and another feedback form which would be on the entire sessions. So on all the resource person, on the topics, on what all you want us to do in the future. So you have to fill two feedback forms tomorrow, and after that, within 10 days, you will get your certificate. Or for all those who are anxious to and worrying about the certificate. Thank you very much, Chitra. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, all the participants. It was a wonderful session and good learning. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.